Inter Milan have made 2 of the last 3 Champions League finals. And they done it all without spending millions and millions of euros. In fact, it might surprise you that over the last 4 seasons, Inter Milan have made a profit from their transfers whilst having all this success. And this is exactly how Simone Inzaghi managed it. There shouldn't be any shocks that their recruitment was ridiculous, both in terms of players in and players out. Since Inzaghi arrived, they made 115 million euros of profit whilst winning literally everything there is to win in Italy. When he had taken over from Antonio Conte, it was simultaneously both incredibly easy and incredibly difficult. On the easy side, you have him inheriting a Serie A winning side with some unbelievable top talent. But on the other side, you're inheriting the exact reason Conte left. There were financial issues, they needed to cut costs, and the worst of it, the management wanted to get rid of their best players, and that's exactly what happened. With Romelu Lukaku, their star man, leaving for 113 million euros, but that's not it, because Achraf Hakimi also left in the same window for 68 million euros. And did they go out and spend into that? No, Inzaghi had to be smart. One of Inzaghi's biggest purchases was Denzel Dumfries, and he cost them 14 million euros. Outside of that, he had to be creative, looking to Roma and getting players that were consistent but at the end of their career so they could pick up goals, but it was only for a short time period, like Edin Dzeko for 3 million euros. And when we look to the next transfer window, it's exactly the same story, with Inter being incredibly prudent in the window. Henrik Mkhitaryan arrives from Roma on a free transfer, a fantastic piece of business. Andre Onana arrives on a free transfer when 1 year later he would be sold for 50 million euros. They even managed to bring back their star man Lukaku on an £8 million loan fee from Chelsea despite all of their troubles. When they did go out and spend relatively big, they did it on reliable talent from big teams that just wasn't in favour, like Benjamin Pavard from Bayern Munich. It wasn't just shrewd business, it was how that business connected with the team's philosophy and how they played. It's crucial to remember that it wasn't just smart recruitment alone that propelled Inter to this ridiculous force under Inzaghi. The core of the transformation was actually how he integrated those players into an incredible, well-tuned Inzaghi system. Not only was there a unique style of play, there was a style of play that was true to both Italian football and Inter's core. A defence-first focused 3-5-2 system. The wing-backs are probably the most pivotal part of Inzaghi's system, because not only do they need to significantly defend and occupy the wide space, they really need to get forward and create at the same time. So, is it any real surprise that one of Inzaghi's first big signings was Denzel Dumfries, a big talent from the Eredivisie with bags of energy? It's just a perfect example of spending money where you need to, but also how you need to, and it only gets trumped by who they play on the left wing. Federico Di Marco, who recently has been in the Champions League team of the season and the Serie A team of the season, but when Inzaghi joined, he was pretty much a journeyman, just going on loan everywhere and making next to no impact. When you partner those wing backs with a strong midfield used to control the tempo of the game, it's absolutely deadly. Now, there are plenty of midfielders that have occupied that position under Inzaghi's system, but for me, there's 2 that significantly stick out as absolutely masterclass in it. It's Nico Barella and Hakan Çalhanoğlu. Barella brings the energy, he covers every blade of grass whilst also giving that intensity, giving that high press, transitioning defence to attack. He really has it all. Then when you partner him next to Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who transitioned more from an attacking midfielder to a midfielder that sits slightly deeper and still is able to create chances, that is the epitome of a high IQ midfielder used to create chances, break the lines, and ultimately smart distribution for those big men up top. But actually, the strikers in this system are very unique. Most recently, Martinez and Thuram, what they're used for, they don't have the most clinical of goal-scoring records. Don't get me wrong, they are lethal in front of goal. But where they excel in this system is tiring out players, stretching the defence, We saw it perfectly in the semi-finals against Barcelona. Thuram was absolutely everywhere, just dragging people out of position, making those changes. He never ran out of energy, and that's sort of the whole system that Inzaghi has built. It's also worth noting how well Inzaghi handles his squad. Players know their role, whether they're starting or not. He brings them on, they make an impact. That means they get significant minutes, but also he can make tactical changes. A perfect comparison comes once again from this recent semi-final where Hansi Flick had used one of his subs by the time Inzaghi had used all 5. He actually had a chance to change the game, which is exactly what happened when they scored in the 93rd minute. And I'm not talking about bringing on world-class, expensive players like Darmian or Tarami. They're not that go-to player. But because he gives them minutes in the league, because he knows what they can offer, it's still a valuable change, and it worked even though Barcelona's squad and their bench is likely much better. It's the exact same reason how Inter are able to compete across every competition in Italy as well as in the European Cups, because they use that squad. They don't just rely on a starting 11, and that's completely down to Inzaghi. But tactics and structure can only take you so far. You need that winning mentality, and that's where Inzaghi's Inter is a step ahead of the competition once again. This is a team that doesn't panic, that stays calm when things aren't going their way, which helps them get results when it's most difficult. As well as sometimes not getting the result done, but showing that discipline and that winner's mentality even in the worst of times. The perfect example is the Champions League final where they lost to Man City, but on another day they could easily have beaten them. In my opinion, they were unlucky to not score against Man City, but they truly challenged them for a team that on paper shouldn't have been challenging them. Yes, they're in a Champions League final, but Man City were clear favourites for that game. You can see that winning mentality week in, week out in Italy, whether that be in the Serie A or in either of the cups. They're hard to beat. But at the same time, if they do go behind, they naturally get better and progress because they have that winning mentality. It's years of hard work and belief in the manager and his system that enables a team to go behind after winning for basically 170 minutes, but then to still come back against the odds last minute and to then even push into extra time. It's that sort of mentality that I think is different with Inter Milan. Now, who knows what happens in the Champions League final, but they've got a massive chance. And for me, a lot of that comes directly from Inzaghi himself. He's not the most flamboyant on the touchlines, he's certainly not the loudest, but players speak about him having that clarity of just being able to explain clearly what he wants in those heated moments, and it clearly works. You've got to remember that this squad, this mentality, this formation was all built over the last 4 years, progressing each year. I think they've got a really good chance in the Champions League this year, but beyond that, I think it shows what they do as a team and as a club. Because despite the history and the size of Inter Milan, in modern day football, just because of the way things are, they're still at a big disadvantage to some of the more wealthy clubs that are able to spend more money, particularly these days. So what it comes down to next is player management and player development, and there isn't many better than Inzaghi. Most noticeably, as I mentioned before, DiMarco, that when Inzaghi arrived, he was a fringe player, no one special, could easily have been sold by the club. But within a few training sessions, Inzaghi pinpointed him as the future left wing back of the club. It gave him that confidence that was enabled to build into one of the best left wing backs in football right now. And you can see that right through the current team. You know, players like Lautaro Martinez, yes, they've always had talent, but he's turning him into one of the best strikers in football. He plays the game different to everyone else. Yes, he's going to miss your sitters, but like I explained before, his movement, his positioning, his finishing seem to improve week to week. And this expands to players I haven't even touched on yet, like Alessandro Bastoni, who currently is one of the best centre-backs in Italy, if not in football entirely. Yes, he always had talent, but his development has been staged by Inzaghi. It's all filtered together. So at the end of the day, when you're putting in a team that works with a good transfer budget, is making profit, filters into a formation where when they need that extra bit of innovation, they've got it. They've got that mentality. I think the fact that Inter Milan have made it to another Champions League final should be spoken about, and I think Inzaghi's role in it should be spoken about loudly as well, because it's not just the transfers they've brought in. They've done it on a tight budget, as I've shown. They've done it smartly, bringing in players that they need that are going to benefit their formation, or formation that they've been working on for 4 years, along with the mentality of winning, so that when they have setbacks, they aren't down and out like they were against Barcelona. They came back, they won the game, and they've got another chance to redeem themselves. So now it comes down to, what can their star men do when the moment matters most? If you enjoyed this, please drop a comment and subscribe to learn more about football.